Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves is a fantasy comedy that is based off the role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons. In this movie, Chris Pine leads a band of, not really cast-offs, but bunch of people with different abilities and gifts and skills who don't really have a place in the world. And you know, I'm sure you guys can imagine how it is. They have to go on this quest, this heist to retrieve something that's gonna take down this evil wizard that's destroying their kingdom. I had absolutely no real faith, real interest in this movie. I thought it was gonna be terrible. Me personally, I never remotely grew up even interested in Dungeons & Dragons. I've never played the game. I've never really even known people who have played the game. Not that I have anything against Dungeons & Dragons, it's just never been my thing. And when I saw the trailer, I wasn't, you know, really that interested in it. I'm just like, okay, there's a new Dungeons & Dragons movie. Whatever. And from then on, I'm just like, this movie's probably gonna be absolutely terrible. But here to tell you right now, if there is an early contender for I'm shocked it didn't suck prize of the year, that would go to this movie because I ended up having a very surprisingly good time with it. A lot of people are calling it the free guy of 2023, and you know what? I can see why they would. Both movies kind of came out of left field. Neither movie anyone really had any interest in, anyone had really any hope in, and they both ended up being surprisingly good times. And you know, I can see it. First of all, let's start with Chris Pine in this movie. Chris Pine, similar to Ryan Reynolds, is just one of those actors that can pretty much just work in any movie. He's just a really likable person, just his charisma, his charm, how funny he is, but when it comes to his sense of humor, a lot of it is like, you know, it's not so much jokes that he makes, it's his delivery. How he delivers his lines, how he responds to certain situations, how he's the leader of this group and the planner, but you can tell he doesn't always really know what he's doing exactly. It really worked in this movie. It brought for a lot of really good comedy in it. And also I'm gonna say this right now, I loved the chemistry among this group of thieves in this movie. I really enjoyed all the different skill sets that everyone brought to the table. I liked seeing how each person really felt like they mattered. You know, it's not like it's the Chris Pine adventure here. No, every group felt like they contributed to the mission, contributed to the movie, and everyone felt necessary. Plus, everyone I felt got like just the right amount of backstory as well. We learned a lot about the characters. We learned a lot about where they come from, what they're ultimately on this quest for. A lot of great character development in this movie. If you're gonna have a group of heroes, you need to have that, and this movie does. I really loved the chemistry between them all in this movie. Like, they felt like a team. Like, there was like banter between them. You know, you could tell there's a friendship and, you know, prior connections between some of them. It felt very authentic, and I think that's credit you have to give to the writing, to the actors themselves. And I will say the heist is a lot of fun, the action is a really good time. Because again, the way it all works, it really blends the comedy very well in this movie because some people are just better fighters than others, some people are more equipped for fighting than others in this group. It's like shit could be going down and one person's just doing something entirely different, like trying to contribute but isn't really. This movie really knew when to be funny, but what I also need to give it a lot of credit is it knew when to have heart. I mean, the big, like, plot line of this movie is Chris Pine is ultimately trying to do something that's going to save his daughter and help his family. And that's what this movie really drives home on. It is a story about family and fighting for the people that you love and doing what it takes that you think might be best for them, but maybe isn't what you thought it might be. It brings the feels, it brings for a lot of growth in the characters. I will say though, with that does come one of the flaws I had with this movie is the fact that the movie very quickly does become kind of predictable. Like right when we get to the main point to why the characters are going on this mission, namely why Chris Pine is going on this mission, you can basically think to yourself at one point, it's like, oh, okay, it's gonna go like this, but this is going to end up happening. Doesn't take a genius to really understand where the movie's going to end up because the movie kind of makes it a little bit obvious. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just the fact that I've watched a lot of movies and I've seen a lot of stuff. I just know what's going to unfold when situations like this come into a movie. Also, I'm going to say this right now. There's one character in this movie. There's one person that's in the group. I think the trailers make it out like this character is going to be a lot more of a part of the group. But the character's not in the movie for very much. I mean, this person, they show up, they do some stuff, they help the team out, and then they're just kind of gone. You don't really see them again until the end of the movie. And that was really disappointing for me because I really like this character. I like what they brought to the table. I really loved what they were capable of doing. Their skill set, their power, whatever you want to call it. Like, the scene this character's in, it was probably the most fun and most hyped I was during the movie itself, and I was really hoping, okay, this person's gonna be along for the whole ride, and we're gonna get some serious shit with the action. I mean, the action was still fun beyond that point, but I mean, I feel like if this character stuck around, it would have been even better. Also, I will say as much, some of the pacing, some of the CGI in this movie, it's not great, but I think those flaws I'm willing to set aside a little bit because, you know, in a movie that I was expecting to suck, minor flaws like that I'm more willing to let go of. So all in all, Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, it's a surprisingly enjoyable movie. The group of characters that we namely follow along in this movie, I really enjoyed all of them. I loved the chemistry, they felt like a team. The character development in this movie is really good, particularly with Chris Pine. Chris Pine absolutely steals the show in this movie. The action is fun, the journey is fun, the comedy in this movie, for the most part, really hits here. It had a very emotional, heartfelt tone when it wanted to, although it does get a little predictable as the movie goes along. And like I said, there are a couple characters in this movie that I kind of wish got a little bit more fleshed out. Now, because I'm comparing this movie to Free Guy, and because a lot of people are comparing it to Free Guy, I will say right now, do I think this movie's as good as that movie? No, I don't. I think namely it's because for me, I'm a lot more invested in video games than I ever possibly could be in Dungeons & Dragons, even though I've said before I'm not a huge gamer. I don't know, just something about Free Guy just really hit me a lot more than this movie did. However, I will say this. Ultimately, in the end, if you are a big fan of Dungeons & Dragons, like Dungeons & Dragons is something you love playing, grew up playing, or still playing, I think this is the type of movie that's really, really gonna work for you. And even if you're not, I still think you can go into this movie and have a really good time with it. So that's all I'm gonna say, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video, and as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.